Dun, dun. All right. Looks like we may be live. We should probably check this out. Hello, everyone. If we are live, Larissa Russell of Creative You, Deborah Epstein. Why can I never remember the name of your? Looks like we may be live.
There I am. The Cosmic Dreaming Lodge.
Why can't I remember that? I think there's like something. Well, I can't remember what I had for breakfast either, so it's not personal.
Well, you've been through a little bit today.
It has been a very stressful day. You're right. Well, stressful and weird, but
I just got informed that the link I posted for people to join us from my Facebook group isn't working. So they got somehow inadvertently got a space in it. So I'm going to copy and paste a new link.
Right.
If I can do it from here, and I see where we are, and I'm going to have to, so we have someone here.
Someone watching us chatter to ourselves. And
yeah, hello, say hello and join the conversation.
Exactly. Please use the chat. We do try to jump in. Sometimes we get so focused on our conversations. And so, I mean, you may have heard this before, for those of you watching in the replay. We decided to live stream these conversations because when we get together, we have these amazing conversations like, oh, we should share this. And so we decided, you know what, we're just going to, come together once a month and have a great conversation. And we almost were late because we were busy having a great conversation. So I was like, oh, wait a second, we need to go live. So we're going to try and, jump back in and share some of what we were. Oh, Diana from Australia, welcome.
Awesome.
Yes. So yeah, we're going to, we were just having a conversation about.
Sure we were. We were talking about being a creator.
Yes.
And we were talking about MLK Day today and how we have choice. One of the things that inspired me about him when I was doing some reading about him was how when he got faced with a challenge, he didn't look at it as like a problem where it's going to defeat him. He could see that he could go down that road, but then he would choose to change how he looked at something and how he created with it. So first of all, not seeing like all of the multitude of attacks that he received as like, a personal attack on him. So someone, we talked about being a victim or that victim archetype and how that's always a possibility that we can look at life through that lens. But then, being creators and how do we want to look at that? And we talked a little bit about mindset and open-mindedness. And there was something else I was just like, it started to pop in that I was like, and it just escaped me. It'll come back because, we're talking about that. So
can I just jump in though? For those who may be not American, MLK, Martin Luther King.
This is true. King so Day American over here.
In the States. Canada, it's a work day today. We didn't have a holiday. Australia, I don't think they do either. So I just wanted to like preface that with that's what you meant by MLK. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Okay, now we can go on.
and the majorly Republican state of Arizona, I don't think looks at it as a holiday. There's such a Wild West thing, but we're changing that. That's in the flow of change, Mm-hmm. But it's just funny to me because my husband said something about, we usually get trash pickup on Monday, and he's like, well, back in Massachusetts, when we lived in Massachusetts, we wouldn't have gotten those services because of the holiday. In Arizona, I think it's not observed, even though the whole country does. So
yes, there are some states I think it's probably true, but yes. Yeah.
Anyway, but that's, I think it's really good what we're talking about is mindset and being a creator and how we have the power to create and we talked a little bit about the economy being a down economy right now, recession. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of hoarding and, hoarding of money, hoarding of resources, because our group mind is in the fear. And that's just kind of like the knee jerk reaction that we do. And I was sharing with Larissa how my very first business I created in a recession. And I remember having a client say something to me like, wow, you're a brave soul opening up a practice during a recession. And I was like, oh, really? There's a recession going on? I didn't realize, because it's like I knew, but I don't let it stop me. I don't, I have other things that will stop me, but whether I'm in a recession or not is not going to be the thing that gets in
Yeah,
my way.
I think, that fear thinking that sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
But
that's okay. It was done.
that fear thinking is very much ingrained in us in our culture, right? Like, we're just taught to be fearful of everything. That's why we have insurance. That's why, we have all the different things. Our news is all fear-based. It's like, well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Our religions, our school, everything is fear-based. And so it's easy to get caught up in that, especially when you're being fed the recession, recession, recession. But if you ignore it, like I do, because I really don't watch the news for the most part anymore. I used to be like a diehard, have to watch it all a couple times a day, so I needed to know what's going on in the world. Now I just go searching for the things I want to know instead of being fed what you're being fed. And recession is one of those. I've never gotten caught up in it. And there's definitely things that I would think about, like, would I buy a house? Probably not right this minute, because our interest rates are so high. Is that recession thinking? No, it's like probably financial sense thinking, right? So, but am I not spending on things that I'm interested in or worried about, not making money? No, like those are not the things that I worry about. And I think a lot of that is not just ignoring, like just, let's pretend. No, it's not that. It's like, what kind of thinking do I want to use, right? So maybe if you're thinking about, recession and fear and, I can't do this or I can't do that, what can you do? Switching it around. And I think that what you were saying about being a creative, right? As creatives, we're constantly switching things around. And it's like like what I looked at yesterday looks very different today, or it will tomorrow, on almost all aspects. So I think, what about being creative and using that creative brain instead of getting locked in the fear of it.
I
feel like
think
I'm rambling today. It's been a weird day, but anyway, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good, because you're creating ripples of thoughts. So
Yes,
one of the
lots of
things
them.
transient nodes of thought. But one of them that I thought about is like, well, yeah, like the best thing you can do for me is give me a limitation, and not that I want you to, I'm not asking for it, but I mean, like, if it's a perceived limitation, it provides a challenge that's a creative challenge that you can go, ooh, well, this is interesting. Like, okay, here's this thing that popped up, and it can throw you. You get to have emotions about these things that pop up in your life, because life happens, right? And we always talk about how, like, once you start getting on the spiritual path and you start doing your mission and you're doing, your soul work, and it feels really awesome and you're having some successes, that, it's not always unicorns and rainbows. And, we don't want to kid ourselves to think like, now I'm here, I've done it, I've achieved this thing, and then nothing else can touch me. We got to get real with that, because we're in a world where all kinds of stuff happens, right? All kinds of stuff. Everyone's creating all kinds of stuff, whether they know they're creating it or not, because we're creating without awareness most of the time. Most of us are doing that. And then we have that conscious creativity, right? Where we're seeing what's available to us. Here's our challenge, and what do I have available to me to help me through this challenge? Where I can create the outcome what I want or close to what I want, and knowing that it's going to be long term, right? It's not like I did this one thing this one time and it didn't happen today. So it's not going to happen. And I'm just going to sit back and give up because it's too big of a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's such an important thing, because I know, like, there have been times in my life where absolutely I have done that. How many times I started a business, through my life, and would just get to a certain point and then everything went, and like, oh, I want the safety of a paycheck, or I want, I have all these excuses. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was like constant. And it was fear. It was fear, right? And so you have to be able to feel into that and recognize it. And as you do the work, you start to move through different things. So, when I think I talked about in our last one, like December was a tough time for me. I was struggling, like, just with burnout and all of the things. And it's like, my wife even said, like, you should just quit. Like, just like, it's too much. And I'm like, no, no, I just need to sit back and go, what's happening right now? Why am I in this space? And
Mm-hmm.
so I took a little rest and was like able to start to look at what I wanted to do. And so then starting to switch things towards what I want to do, as opposed to getting caught up in all the things I was doing that I thought
Mm-hmm.
everybody else needed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's re-examining and not getting caught up in the, because quite honestly, if my mother-in-law had her way, I would be in a corporate job with benefits and a pension, maybe even the government, because she was really upset when I left the government, and doing that. And I'm thinking, that would kill me. That would literally kill
Mm-hmm.
me now, right? It
Yeah.
almost did before. So I just was like, no, I need to rethink things. I need to create what I want. And so let's just switch things up a little bit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's been amazing to step into that energy.
Yeah, I agree. Like I have my own version of that where I was just like not liking the direct, not the so direction my business was heading, but how I was creating my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't fitting within how I thought it should be. It was like, yeah, I was fighting with it a little bit and resisting it. And then I tried, well, maybe if I didn't feel like I needed to fight with it, maybe if I could relax around it a little bit. But then I just really started treating it more like anything else that I create. And I started asking myself, I started getting curious about it. Like, well, what is it exactly that I'm not liking about this? And so I can make a list of like the things that I didn't like. Can I hire out for this? And so for a little bit, I did do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then beginning of last year, I had a complete reset of my whole team
Mm-hmm.
where everyone kind of left as like either I got rid of them or they left. And so the cheese
Mm-hmm.
stands alone. And then I kind of sat there and went like, want to do with this, right? Because I didn't get into what was really interesting for me. Like, I didn't get into a panic about it. I didn't tell myself a story about it. I didn't. I didn't do any of those normal things that we do or that I haven't been known to do. I
Mm-hmm.
just sat in it and I went, "Wow, this is so interesting. Look at what I'm creating. Look at what's happening. How did I create it? Well, was it
Mm-hmm.
my energy of going like, I don't really like this. I want something different. And so that energy shift started to create something in the field and started to create opportunities for neat things to change. And so when that happens, some things had to leave
Mm-hmm.
so that I could really assess what it is that I want and what I like and how I like it. And it's been a really interesting evolution. It's not happening overnight, but I can say like this year in the same place last year where I was last year, where I
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, this is interesting. I have nothing. This is really interesting to like, I feel like I'm in momentum, I'm in the flow, I'm creating, I'm not attaching to every little thing I do. I float it out there, I get the information, I see what happens. Let's try it again. Because you don't know. There is
Mm-hmm.
no way of knowing. And it's just like painting. where you're doing a painting like that, I always say it's like not representational art, but it is, in a sense. It's representing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
your subconscious. It's representing that, but you don't always know the outcome of that because you're in the discovery process.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, this is just like a painting. I'm in the discovery process. I don't know what's going to happen. And what do I have to let go of? My fear of not making enough money, my fear of not having enough time, my, and whatever other fears I could probably name. But yeah, but I think the top two for people are fear of time, not enough time, not enough money. And I think those are big stumbling blocks
Huge. Mm-hmm.
for us. Yeah.
Well, and when you stop being mindful of what's happening, right? Because when I started my business, I was much more mindful of where I was going, what I wanted to do. And then somewhere in the middle, I got very must do all the things, must do all the things. And then it was like,
Must do all the things.
exactly. It's like, that's what, the top people do. They have this, and it's like, that's and the end of last year, so last month, I was like, wait a second. Do I want to do all the things? Do all the things feed what I want to be doing with my business? How I want to be helping people? What? And it's like, no. So it's like, okay, so what does? And how can we do more of that? How can I do more of what I want to do, of how I want to work? And that's one of the reasons that I started the, aligned business building for creatives and healers, because it's like, don't do the things that I did. How do you want your business to be? Because right now I'm shifting it. It would be so much easier to start at the beginning and go, this is what I want. This is how many hours a week I want to work. This is how I want to live my life. I want to be traveling, or I want to be stable in a home, and, or I have kids, whatever it is that you want. But I doubt very many people go, oh, I want to be constantly still living paycheck to paycheck. I constantly working. So I'm like, I wake up, go to work, stop working, go to bed. I don't think anybody chooses to like, oh, that's what I want. No, so that's not our dream of being an entrepreneur. So then it's like, how can I, change things up so that I'm not working? And you know what? I've cut my hours in half easily, and I'm going to cut them in half again. And I still am like getting what I need to get done, because we cut out so many things. We cut out so many things that were not important to the work we wanted to do. I wanted to do ultimately, but my team helped with that as well. Like what do we want to be putting out into the world?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and I think the one of the important things that I'm hearing that is within what you're saying, but you're not actually saying it, is that when you start out to create something that you've never created before, such as an online business, we do have models for that, and we go, "Ooh, that looks really good, and that looks really good, and that looks really good," and we're diving into the unknown. We don't know how much work it actually takes to create something like that. So we set off on this endeavor, and then we find out through doing that, you know what, this is not like, I didn't realize I was going to have to spend like most of my day marketing and not serving clients.
Back end, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on with that. And I think too, and I'm not saying this so that those of you who are out there that want to start an online business don't do it. No, do it. It's finding the way to do it, where, because that was one of my questions that I had, is like, because I love serving the client. I love being on one-to-one calls. I love group calls. I love teaching. But in order to do that, you have to, on a larger scale, people need to get to know you, right? To be able to trust, so that they're investing not in you, but they're investing in themselves with you. That they're saying like, you've shown me enough so that I go, yep, I believe I can get to where I want to go with your support, because I see that you know how to do that, right? So how can you get that message across without spending most of your days,
Hmm.
marketing and all that kind of stuff, right? Um, so it's a good question. It's just and to me, there's like be in the question because we don't have answers yet, right?
Well, and it's going to be different for everyone, right? Like how
And
you do that.
everything you do, right? Everything you
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. And depending on like so many of Nicole just said here that she's struggling to extricate herself from the must do all things mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly it, right? Because when we start, we think, well, we have to do all the things. And in reality, no, what we need to do is just be ourselves, show up, show who we are, and start right there. And so that's going to be different for everyone. But I think like one of the things that I talk about a lot is just like, where are people going to see you? Right? You're online. There's billions of people online. Where are people going to see you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just starting with putting yourself out there, doing things. And even if it's not a business, right? But if you're wanting more of something, where do you find that? You have to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there to find whatever it is, whether it's clients or people who will know, like, trust you, or, maybe it's you want to learn something. You always have to put yourself out there. And when we're living in that fear, coming back to fear, when we live in that fear and we're not putting ourselves out there, we don't find that. And
Mm.
that must do all things mindset is also fear based because it's like, are they going to like me enough? Am I giving them enough? Do they, instead of just like, I know that what I have to offer is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need all the bells and whistles to prove that it's awesome because the bells and
Mm-hmm.
whistles are not actually helping them.
Right. It's
Right.
it's complicating it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about simplicity, right? Simplicity and succinctness. And and I love where you're going with this because this is exactly what I was thinking as you were talking. It's like, yes, it's mindset. We talk about mindset, and it's our way of being, how
Mm-hmm.
we be with it. Do you believe in what your product is? Do you believe in it? Because if you do, if you're really a proponent of it, it comes through in everything you do, in everything you say, in how you say it. Like even just how I'm doing this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I believe what I'm saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe what I'm saying. I'm passionate about what I'm saying. Like my whole body is getting into it. I tend to do that. Those people who follow me a lot know that that
Mm-hmm.
I get fired up about things that I love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the passion is my driver.
Yeah.
Um, and because I came from such a place of the world happening to me and I couldn't do anything about it, to discovering that, oh my goodness, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot I can do about it. And just in that transformation of going from, being created and having everything created for you, which, by the way, there is a certain comfort in that when you think about it. When I just said it that way, I'm like, yeah, well, who wouldn't want that, right? But then there's the trade-off to that, right?
You give up autonomy with that.
Yeah, you give up autonomy, you give up freedom of choice.
Mm-hmm.
If you like being, it's funny because I get the picture of like a house cat on a fluffy, like velvety pillow. And yeah, I'm being cared for and stroked and all that kind of stuff. But am I really fulfilled? And for me, that's a no. For me,
Yeah.
that's a no. And, I'd rather, it's funny because I've done this, I'd rather, butt my head against things, against the wall and have all the difficulties that I have and exercise my creative abilities to
Mm-hmm.
to find my way through it than to have someone just hand it to me, you know. And I think when we say that, like, I wish someone would come and wave that magic wand over everything and I just get what I want, I think that we really want to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
What would that mean if someone came along today and said, okay, and I'm going to pick Nicole. Okay, Nicole, you just tell me what you want and I'm going to wave my magic wand over it. What would you do with that power, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm sure we could find certain things that we would be okay with, like the magic wand, right?
Hmm.
But I don't know that I would want that everywhere in my life, because that would mean I didn't go through the process of creating something and calling it my own, or moving through that. There is such juice and
Hmm.
expansion when you move through something, that you can
Yeah.
only learn through moving through it.
I have said that so many times because, people ask me like how I survived till now. And, I'm like, okay, yeah, it was just my life. But what really stands out for me is that I would not be who I am now. I would not be doing the work that I am now if I hadn't gone through, yeah, did it absolutely like devastating moments in my life that, you know, I never was allowed to say that sucked at home. But when I was a kid, my mom was like, ah, don't say it outside. But it sucked. Right? Like it was really unpleasant. And there were so many things. But without all of that, where would I be? I would not be this person. And so I would not be doing the work I do in the way that I do it. I would not be learning the lessons that I needed. So if the magic wand is waved and we just have it happen for us, like where's the growth in that? Where's that
Mm,
expansion? Where's that learning? And
hmm.
for me, that's vitally important, right?
Yeah, it creates a dependency too. And what Nicole came back with is red flag. It would come with my owing a debt of expectations to the wand waver.
Oh, yes.
Enslavement, right? I
Hmm.
know I'm in debt to
Yeah,
this. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm forever grateful in that, like, less than way.
Hmm.
Yeah, good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
really
Love
good
that.
point. And are there things that I wish I didn't always have to do it the hard way? Probably.
Hmm.
That's been a
Yeah, but
theme in my life.
even that you could set an intention. Like, it just starts with that question. Like, I've
Mhm.
noticed that I like to do things the hard way. How about if I started to see the easy way?
And I've been working on that because that's exactly
Yeah.
it. Because that thing that I've always told myself, you know, I always have to make it hard. I always have to like fight. Part of it's my rebellious streak. So it's like, don't tell me what to do. Spirit, myself, whoever, don't anybody tell me
Hmm.
what to do. But part of it is just like that belief system that I've had that I have, I have to do it the hard way. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
don't. Maybe if I just started to pay attention, I don't have to do it the hard way. And it's amazing how much that shifts when you choose not to do it the hard way, when you
Yeah.
choose to change your belief system, when you choose to change your language, which we were also talking about earlier. When you
Hmm.
choose to change the language that you use, it changes what happens around you, right?
Changes your actions, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
coming from a place of intention, right? Like, so it's funny, mine is, I guess I'll just have to do it myself.
I used to have that one too.
And it's lessened, but I see that that's a default setting. I can look in my family history and I can see my mom, and I
Mm-hmm.
can look at my daughter and I can see what she learned through me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I modeled it, right? I think of certain instances in my life when my kids were growing up where I asked for something, it doesn't get done, I guess I'll have to do it myself, right? So how much do I create that because I hold that belief? I set it up. How do
Mm-hmm.
I set That's what I've been noticing. How do I set it up for myself that happens? Maybe I'm giving confusing information to those I'm asking for help from. Maybe I'm not giving all the information that
Maybe I'm
I
not
need to give.
actually asking for help.
Maybe I'm not actually asking for help, but maybe I am, and I'm not, because I've not gotten the enough experience in how to do that, where, oh, I hate asking for help. Oh, I feel like I'm like this when I ask for help. That is also a belief system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we have belief upon belief upon belief upon belief. How do I know this? Because I've worked through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will it happen again? Absolutely. Physical
Yeah.
belief.
We
And
every
do I have
moment we have a
power?
belief about
Yeah.
what's going to happen, where we are, what's happening in our world. So yes, are they all the correct beliefs? Not necessarily, right? And we'll only know that through learning and paying attention, being mindful of the things that aren't working so that we can go, okay, what's my belief about that? Where does this come from? Where is this stemming from? Do I need to switch up my thinking, or do I need to switch up my action? Do I need to switch up both? Something needs to switch because that's not working, right?
Yeah.
Instead of going, well, I have no control. I don't have, life sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, what we're boiling down to is how do I find, like right answer, wrong answer, right way of being, wrong way of being. It's like, how do I know? Right. It's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? I think for women, I think that's a really hard question to answer, because we were told we first out of the gate, we had this conversation too, like way back in the 50s, you could be a wife and mother, you could be a teacher, or you could be a nurse. And then maybe there's a few other things in between, but those were the major occupations that women could have. But now look at us, right? We can do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because now we have all these options, we're going like, I don't know what I
told
want.
me that how to make a decision, right? No, because I, had a path, and yeah, I might have thought it, but now I'm doing all the things because I was told I didn't have options, and then somebody fought for me, and now I have options, but now I have to do all the things. It's like, no, you still get to make decisions. Whether or not you do all the things, yes, there's expectations, but are you going to buck the system to do what's good for you? Or are you going to go along with what's expected of you? Right?
And I think that, you can learn how to stand in your power, and because we're kind of talking about empowerment in so many different ways. And we talk about mission a lot, and soul purpose and all that kind of stuff. And I think too, like what I'm working with people is kind of demystifying that, kind of knocking that thing down a few pegs, because we talk about soul mission as like this dun 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 is this big huge thing, right? And again, it's like we have this perception about it. But what if you are on your soul's mission right now? What if you are experiencing your soul purpose? And maybe it has to do with transformation. The planet is going through huge transformation right now, right? Consciousness is going through a transformation. So of course we are too. And so what if that's it? And then through anything you choose, doesn't matter what you choose. I want to write a book. I want to paint a bunch of paintings. I want to sell my work in galleries. It's just going to provide you the vehicle for your soul to expand.
Yeah.
And transform.
Also listening, because oftentimes we get so caught up in doing it one way that we don't leave room for spirit to be like, okay, this is where you're supposed to be, and that's where you're supposed to be, but you don't necessarily get to decide how you get there, right? I always wanted to be a psychologist. That was my thing. And through all my life's things, school took me like forever to finish, and all this, and just life and blah. Basically, that's what I do, but in a way that works better for me without that title, right?
Right.
I help people move through things that are blocking them and help them move forward. I am doing that, but did I, do the school route and certified, and, no, I didn't do it exactly that way. I started to do it that way, and then life got like crazy. And so then I would go back and forth and back and forth. And now I'm in the perfect place for me, doing exactly what I wanted to do. And no, it's not called that. Right. But
yeah,
that's not what matters. What matters is this is where I was supposed to be. And sometimes we try to force the way it's supposed to be.
Right. And I think that speaks to ourselves as creatives. So like when I was a little kid, I would always, what do you want to be? I want to be an artist, I want to be a doctor, and I want to be a teacher. And I could go like, I'm kind of doing that. Not doctor to, how we do medicine. Alternatively, the body work I do. It's not, it's about healing, right? It's more towards healing. And then, art, yep, do it with art,
Mhm.
and teaching it, so it's like all three things are covered. Did I go to get a degree to learn how to do these things? No, it evolved out of the work that I was already doing. It's an evolutionary process. I think that's also, like, I think where we're headed in consciousness. And I also, going back to what you said about being a psychologist or a psychiatrist, when you have those titles, and then you're bound by governing forces and boards and all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
that really tie our hands as practitioners, where you can't help the person the way they need the help, you know?
Mhm.
But if we kind of fall under like this category of shamanic practitioner or,
Oh,
creative
sure. Yeah.
coach, yeah, that kind of stuff, there's no governing licensure board that is going to say, like, okay, each person needs to get it this way. And because that also hampers we have an innate ability to heal, and we do it in a creative way, and no two people do it alike. And it's
Mhm.
just like, one of the things I learned through body work is that, like, when someone comes to you with a back issue, you could have like 10 people with the same diagnosis, and I will see something different in each person in their body and how they stand, and of the other things that they tell me about their life, because that problem in your
Mhm.
back has other things going with it, because we're fractal, we're interwoven, we have belief systems and emotions and experiences and traumas and all kinds of stuff that are very unique to our own experiences.
Mhm.
So to go to a doctor and say, okay, you've got a slip disc at whatever, and here's the cure for that, which is this one thing that we
Mhm.
do, we're missing the whole picture of the human being and the human experience that is interwoven into that one outcome.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's so true. Like, don't even get me started on our medical system. That's a whole other thing. But,
Just leads into
and I do
everything.
go to the doctor and I do get medications for certain things. However, the body holds um, traumas and beliefs and all different things in it, and it holds it in different ways. I remember back in the 80s reading Louise Hay's, uh, oh, what's it called? All of a sudden, the one with the,
You can heal your life.
yes,
You can heal your life. Something like that. You can heal your life. Yes, I have it right
yes.
over there on my shelf.
And I love the concept of it, but the very rigid, this almost like going to a doctor, the very rigid, back pain, lower back pain is money, this pain is this, that, and I'm like, not for everyone, not for, and it's a great starting point. And I think the fact that understanding that we do hold energy in our body in different ways is amazing. And yes, maybe the majority, but we get so locked into there's this one way in everything, right?
Well, wouldn't that be superiorly easy if we had the one answer to the one
Mm,
problem that we all have? And, but then what are we giving up for that?
yeah.
That one answer. We're now becoming homogenized versus
Who gets to
unified.
decide on the one answer?
Yeah. Wow. It's
We know
based on
right now who
research
gets
and
to
based on
decide
the
on the.
law of averages and based on da 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 da. And when you're the person that falls in the crack and you don't fit anywhere, then what?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been a big problem with our school systems, big problem with our medical systems. Like, everything since the Industrial Revolution has been about making everything the same for everybody. You know, and really it's about control, because we can control people easier if we put everybody in one box and shove them through this tight. There's no room for, straying from that. And people are starting to stray. People are starting to stray big time. We have
Actually,
a
I'm
few.
gonna.
Yeah, jump in because
I,
I was
I
gonna.
Yeah, I wanted to address a couple things in the chat. Ali says, no to all the things, dele- delegate, share the load, shift the tide. Nicole says, often we are handed wrong, archaic, patriarchal beliefs, goals, and our believing these things keeps others in their comfortable place.
Oh,
Yes.
so true.
Elaine says, yes, we hold a lot of energy in our body, but it can become blocked by illness. Actually, it's the other way around. We get illness from the blocked energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way it works. We don't start off with illness. Our bodies are designed for health. And our bodies, when we're, and I will say choice, but we're choosing without knowing we're choosing because we don't
Mm-hmm.
know any better.
Especially
We're
in
not
this
taught
culture.
this. When we choose to not allow the trauma energy to flow through us, it does get lodged in our system. It gets lodged in our system like just from a fall, a simple fall. You think about the physics when you hit the ground, you're moving at a certain pace.
Mm-hmm.
You trip, you have momentum, you hit the ground. The shock of hitting the ground reverberates through your body, and just that energy can get stuck. What our bodies are designed to do, just like the little birdie that hits the window, right? If they
Shake it
don't
off.
die from that, they shake it off. But we don't
Mm-hmm.
do that because, well, I don't want anyone to see me shaking it off, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that's how you get the energy to move physically. And so we fluff it off. It's nothing. I'm good. We have other feelings that go with that. Maybe I'm embarrassed and I don't want anybody to know. That gets shoved in there too. So your body does hold that, and it will create over time, enough of those things happen, it will create a dysfunction in your movement pattern, a dysfunction in your thinking, a dysfunction in your emotions, because it has to affect everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then illness will ensue. And that's the nature of illness. It's not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
that's going back to the
Then
Louise
you're
Hay
creative.
thing.
Yeah.
Like what she was getting at was so true, right? Like that dis-ease in your body is from all these other things. And so, I mean, it was a number of years ago that she came up with this concept. So
And
yay, her.
it was groundbreaking when she came out with it
Yes.
too, because it was during a time where, like, we call this stuff woo woo, right? To
Yeah.
me it's like so normal. But when she came out, you had to, like, imagine like, because I imagine what I experience when I do shamanic journeys, when I'm allowing energy to flow through me, when I'm healing, working with another person, the magical things that can happen when you can allow for that flow of energy to guide and direct you. When we get out of the way, we become the hollow bone, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I was experiencing that in that time when she came out with it, I wouldn't even know where to begin to
Mm-hmm.
put it in a structure so that people could understand.
Yeah.
Because I think during the time too, like, we got to think of like the linear mind and how, like, we are really, like, we're doing an awesome job. We can pat ourselves on the back for being part of it, is bringing creativity into the environment, bringing that right brain ability to dream and imagine, and how much that creates our reality,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation in the way that we're having it back in Louise Hay's day, the Hayes days, the heyday, Louise
In the
Hay.
heydays. It just Nicole had mentioned, then you're a creative. That's what, if you don't fit into that box. Well, and that's exactly true. Except for we're all creative and none of us fit in that box. Even the people who keep trying to shove us in the box don't fit in the box. And that's part of why we have such a disparity in our whole economic structure and everything, is because the people who are trying to fit us in the box, they don't fit in the box, so the rules don't apply to them. They they make them for other people. I had this problem with I spent
That's so true.
I'm just okay, I'm not even going to get started on
Seething
the
now.
patriarchy. See, passion.
Watch
I'm not
her
even going to
blood
get started on the
boil.
patriarchy, but I switched from oil and gas into the beauty industry. Oil and gas tanked, and so I switched into the beauty industry, and I was director of education. So I worked with a group of educators to come up with a new contract. We spent a year writing this contract. They were involved in it, every step, and then everybody signed the contract, so a small group. And then it came to enforcing. The people who were in on the contract writing were a part of the process didn't think it applied to them. This wasn't even men in the patriarchy. This was women. It's like, wait a second. But that's just the way our system works, right? Our system is like, if we have that eliteness or that hierarchy, it doesn't apply to us, but everybody else needs to fit into that box. Everybody else needs to do it that way. And this is where creatives like you and I are starting to shake things up. There's a lot of us around the world right now who are shaking things up and saying, you know what? No, you don't. Everybody's creative. Everybody gets to do their thing, but you don't get to decide what is acceptable and what's not. You know?
Yeah. And I think too, like when going back to illness, that's some of what creates illness too, is hampered expression. You know, just think of the depression that can cause in a human being because they're not allowed to express their nature. And like, think about expression on a more broad term. You know, when we talk about gender, when we talk about our sexual orientation, when we talk about being a woman and how we define that, we talk about being a man and a woman in terms of being human and how we get to express, how we're allowed to express our emotions when we're hurt, when we're sad, when we're angry. And we think, you know, we've got it bad with some of the things that we're experiencing. I don't know if I would want to trade with a man who, you know, to be a man and not be able to express myself in the way that I express myself, because I mean, you're watching me, right? I'm expressive. Like if I had to contain my fire because it wasn't appropriate, it would kill me. It would totally.
And that's where we get all the anger from, right?
Yep.
Because, you know, men are not allowed to show emotion. Men are not allowed to, you know, express creatively. They have to, you know, it's very like, do this. And then we have this acting out and we have this anger and we have this like rages that happen. So the patriarchy is not about men versus women. It's an energy, and very much so men suffer from it just as much as women do, because we're all like supposed to behave a certain way, and it's not working for anyone at all.
It's a belief. It's a Western belief, Western European belief structure, right? We have different versions of it in different countries, but it all boils down to the same sort of, you know, when I think back historically, what I know historically of, you know, when it came in and where it began, and, you know, and what was the result of that? Like they got rid of goddess culture. They got, you know, one God only. We only get one God.
Yeah.
And there's a right one, and it's a white man.
Yeah.
And he lives in a mansion
there's
up
no
in
way
clouds.
He could have been.
and he's got a beard and he lives in clouds. And if you're good, shows grace upon you. And if you don't follow the rules set forth by
that fear-based, right? That fear-based.
Yeah, totally. Right. And like, look at all of the things that got created, all the structures, and it's still a creation. So when I look at it like that, it's still a creation, but it doesn't suit anybody. Does not suit anybody.
Even the ones who are creating it or trying to hold on to it, trying to keep it.
Who think they're at the top. They're miserable.
Yes.
Because I had this illusion that once I got to the top, it was going to be amazing. No, you're still the same. Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's one of the things about belief systems too. Like when you think about money, and a lot of people, I know this is a big factor when you start to do money work and looking at your belief systems, is that, you know, rich people are assholes. I know that was mine for the longest time. Rich people are assholes because my dad is an asshole. So, and he had money. So, you know, it's like,
well, I don't want money then, because that's going to mean I'm
exactly.
So
the quickest way to push that away. But money just amplifies who you are. If you're a good person, you can do more good. If you're not a good person, you can do more not good, right? I don't want to say bad, but it just amplifies who you are. So switching again, that's the belief system part, right? Of what are we creating in our life, positive or negative? What are we creating in our lives? And then stopping and looking and go, Is this working? And oftentimes it's not. I know when I talk to people, oftentimes it's not, right? But they don't want to stop and go, we do a lot of surface level, and we need to dig underneath that surface level to see what's really going on. And it's hard and it's uncomfortable. And, that was part of my December, is that, you and I had started doing work. And so I started to dig under, and it's like, oh, this is really unpleasant. I don't like it. I really don't like it. And then everything kind of starts to fall apart, and you're like, wait, I need it to be the same. And then you realize that the same is just a comfortable version of being uncomfortable, because your brain is like, no, it must be the same. New things are scary. And so challenging that and moving into the scary allows you to dig under. And, with all of my clients, I always talk about, like, hey, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? And if you're willing to go there, it's amazing what can happen. But it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah. And unpleasant.
Yeah, it's not for sissies, for sure,
But then on the other side, it's like, yeah, golden orbs.
Payoff. Yeah. The payoff is amazing. Yeah, like it's what's the worth it, my husband always says the worth it-o-meter, the worth it-o-meter, is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Yeah. And, yeah, the work is hard, but yeah, the value that you get out of it, how I feel about myself today versus when I think back 20 years ago, where I was and who I was. And it's funny because, like, where I went back to New England for Christmas, and I rented a Airbnb just down from my favorite teacher at Rhode Island School of Design. And it was really awesome. I saw him from afar, but by the time I got up to him, he was like in his house. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to knock on his house and disturb him or whatever. But I was me being shy. But it's funny. It got me being nostalgic and thinking back to who I was when I was in school. And I was really mousy. I was really afraid to say what I wanted. Just the fact that I was in that school was like a huge stretch for me. Right. And it was the thing that kicked me in this direction, because I didn't really know, once I had my kids and, I had gotten that kind of out of my system, that I knew there was something else that was, I was wanting to create and wanting to do. And, to me, that was like, that's huge. Right. But look, 20 years later, and who I've become as a result of the road that I've traveled, the decisions that I got to make, getting to the end of a marriage where, like, I had to make the choice, or I like to say got to, because it wasn't a have to. I got to make the choice that served me and not everyone around me, like it wasn't going to make anybody happy, but it was going to make me happy. And, choosing yourself first is not a default setting that I had. It was anything, it's like
most women have.
Right. And I didn't want to say it like that, because I know that to be true, but I don't want to put that on anybody, because it was very true for me. It was very true for me. And I'm not that woman anymore. I'm a version of that woman. I'm an expanded version of that woman because of the work I chose to do. And it wasn't, like I said, 20 years ago. It was a lot, maybe even more, if I'm really being honest about my age. I'm like, I got to do the math. It's probably more like 30 years because I'm always missing 10 years. But anyway, it was a long haul, and I've got more to go. And so whenever I kid myself to think that something has to happen overnight, then I need to take a pause and get real with myself and say, really, like, you think you're going to do that big transformation or whatever it is, the thing that you want to bring into your life, that it's going to happen next month. It is, who do I get to be on a daily basis to create that thing? And I'm all in, no matter how long it takes.
Yeah. Because what's the option? To stay stuck, stay miserable, which a lot of people do. I did it for a long time, right? And yes, I was working on some things, but I never wanted to do like the deep work. I did a lot of surface level work. Didn't want to like go really underneath, because it's hard and it's messy and it's painful. And so it's just so much easier to stay in that uncomfortable, comfortable place. And so, like I said, doing the hard work, it changes your life, but it's also never over. Once you start, it never ends. So just know that you're in for the long haul if you start it. Because
I suppose you could stop, but then like, what fun would that be? I can't
once you start, I can't even imagine, because you start to like see the difference, and you can look back and you go, oh, that's where, no, I don't want to go back to that. So it's like, what's forward? What more can I learn? What more can I do?
My imagination, right? I'm only limited by that. So I'm like, when I get to a good place, which I've been in for a little bit, I'm not going like, come on, like, what can I do to stir this up because it feels too good right now? I'm going, no, what else can I create? What else can I create? Yeah. What else can I bring in? What do I want? So I'm challenging myself to dream on a bigger scale, instead of going like, oh, I want $1 million and I want a mansion and a yacht and I want a, airplane and I want
I can't remember the last time I said that to myself. Oh, I want to win the lottery. It used to be a common mantra, and it's like, no, like I can't even imagine that now. Like, okay, great. Yeah, throw me some money. But my life is all about what I create. I'm not waiting to be fixed or saved by something else. Yeah.
Yeah. How do I want to live my life? Like, I don't know if you've talked about this, and I know I talk about this with other people about retiring, and how people talk about like, when I retire, then I'll right. And it's like, we wait. And I know I have friends that do this too. It's like, they have these really great lives that they want to live, but they want to wait for that pension to kick in,
and the free time vested,
and I've never, even though I was raised in that environment, I never had that as part of me. And maybe that's a soul piece that's stuck with me. Like, whatever I'm going to do, I'm doing it for my life, because I'm like, all of what I'm learning, like, my whole life is all about like art and transformation. It's just like, that's just
I can't imagine
I
not
thrive in. Yeah. And then I can't retire from that. I didn't spend all this time getting where I, doing all this work just to like go put my feet up and drink a cocktail with an umbrella on the beach. I can do that and still do my work. Yeah, I can do both, right? Why not? Why can't I? I mean, especially with the technology we have today, right? I could say, hey, Larissa, I'm going to be like on a beach and, in a month, but I'll have my laptop. So, my backdrop will be, yeah, we can still do a live, maybe we should make that a goal for next year.
Yeah.
Interesting backgrounds. Where are you going on the third Monday?
Love it. But it's so true. There's nothing, I've never thought about retiring either. And I don't know if that's the creative mindset or I honestly thought I would be dead by now. So I never really planned for it. when I did a bunch of healing work that I did and realized that I might actually live, I went into panic mode, because I was like, I had planned my whole life to be dead by now. Because the women on my mom's side, like, my mom was 56, I'm 55. She was the second oldest. My grandmother was the oldest. She made it all the way to 70. And I thought, with my lifestyle, there's no way that I would make it to even my mom's age. So I'd be dead by now. But yeah, it's, so it was like relearning or reconditioning to think about a future, but it never included retiring. I don't know what that looks like, because I'm a doer. I do stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible that you had that in your family lineage, and like your paradigm buster, busting a paradigm. Not easy work.
To the point where I don't even think about it. My doctor does. He worries about it all the time, and I just leave it with him, because it's so not my issue now.
Yeah,
I have done that work. And I've cut it so much that I don't even worry about my kids. right? Because that is not, but it's just not there. I've done the work for that one. So it's just not even an issue. Yeah.
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 Awesome.
So
Congratulations on that, by the way.
that was a big one. Yeah.
It is a big one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sheldon, thank you.
Transferring to thinking you're 55, not looking a day over 40. Awesome.
I'll take it. It's amazing because, I was driving my wife to the hospital today for some day surgery, and we went to a neighborhood I lived in when I was young. And I was like, oh, I used to go to that bar. Yeah, I was 13. I could get into a bar at 13. A whole other life back then. But now I see it reversed. I'm totally okay with that. I looked older when I was younger. I look younger when I'm older. I like these genetics. I'm good with this.
Thank
you.
I love it.
Well,
so it's a youth transformation, the youth serum of the future, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is exactly it. When you live your best life, when you work on yourself and you do the things that fulfill you, and why would you look aged, right?
Yeah. And, as I think too, and before I see we're getting ready to sign off, but one thought that I want to kind of leave everybody with too is getting over the working hard part of things. Hard work is only, because that's also the patriarchal mindset and stuff. I love making art, and I love that gets to be my job, and that I can make my living. I always say put mac and cheese on my table with it. Because I would say there's challenges to it, but it's not like sweatshop labor or soul sucking labor. It's life enhancing work.
I don't go sit in my car and cry on my breaks now. I used to do. I don't do that anymore. I don't need a car because I work at home. We have one car for us, but I don't need to do that. So absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. Any final thoughts before we sign off today? Thank you for everybody's comments too.
It was lively.
Yeah, it was wonderful to see. I was just looking at my subscribers. I know that if you're religious, this might be an issue for you, but 666 has been a number that has shown up in my life over and over and over again. It's always been a good luck number, kind of like Friday the 13th. Incredibly lucky day for me. But I think it's a mindset thing too, because it just keeps showing up. So anyways, I don't know if I've ever looked at 666.
We looked at angel numbers, and it's like it's another remnant of the patriarchy too, and those tabooed belief systems. And we just had a Friday the 13th. It was an awesome day. It's just another day, right? It's what we make of it and how we connect to it and believe about it. And Sheldon says, when I was 18, people thought I was 25. When I was 25, people thought I was 18. Someone told me yesterday I was 32. I'll be 50 in March. Well, congratulations on that. Yay. And Nicole says, thanks, Larissa and Deborah. And then thanks. Good to hear these messages. Awesome. So glad you guys got a lot out of this. We enjoy it all the time. And when you guys join and add to the conversation, it really just makes this lively and enriching. And it makes me love it all the more.
This is why we come here, because we can have these amazing conversations by ourselves, but it's like, let's share and see what you think as well. So even if you're watching it on the replay, throw in some comments, let us know what your thoughts, did anything resonate with you? Did anything be like, oh, I don't believe that. Age is just a number. Live each day and create forever. Love it.
Absolutely. Love it. All right, Deb.
And Alice, good time spent in circle. Yes. Community is so important. So wow. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm going to try and sign off in a more elegant way than I usually do with are we done? Are we out? I don't know how to do this. So, no guarantees. Thank you everyone for being here. And if I figure out how to sign off, I said I was going to try, but may not happen.
You go up to your
No,
top.
I found it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.